We had been married for 3 years, and in that time, my wife had suffered 3 miscarriages. The doctor warned us that her uterus was severely damaged and that another pregnancy could put her life in danger. I was heartbroken, and in order to spare her from more pain, I decided to get a vasectomy. But something unexpected happened. Not long after, she called to tell me she was pregnant. I was on my way out of the hospital when I got the news, having just finished my final checkup after the vasectomy. The procedure had been a complete success. I had felt relieved, thinking I no longer needed to worry about the risk of her becoming pregnant. I had decided that even if it meant giving up on having children, my wife's safety and health were far more important than anything else. I was thinking about her when the phone rang. "Honey, I've got good news and bad news. Which one do you want first?" I couldn't help but smile as I imagined her playful face. "Come on, what bad news could we possibly have?" I said with a chuckle. "The bad news is that your wife won't be able to get out of bed for the next few months, and we'll need you to take care of her." Knowing how fragile her health was, I immediately began to worry. "What happened?" Her voice was full of joy as she laughed. "The good news is, you're going to be a dad. The doctor said we have to be extra careful this time because of the previous miscarriages. I'll have to stay in bed for the entire pregnancy. But I'm going to do everything to keep this baby safe, even if it means lying in bed for months." For a moment, my mind was filled with a sharp, overwhelming noise that wouldn't stop. "What's going on, honey? Didn't you hear me?" she asked, as I tried to steady my voice by taking a deep breath. "How far along are you?" "4 weeks. Today marks 4 weeks. But in the last 4 weeks, I've had 3 sperm tests done, and they all came back showing no sperm at all. The doctor even confirmed the vasectomy was a success. Isn't that ironic? I gave up the chance of having a child for my wife's sake, and now, here we are. She's pregnant." Suppressing my growing anger, I hurried home. When I got there, my wife was lying in bed, stretching her arms out to me. "Hi, honey," she said cheerfully. I stood frozen at the door, and she slowly lowered her hands, looking disappointed. Most men are thrilled when they find out they're going to be fathers. "Why don't you seem happy?" she asked. I studied her face, looking for any sign of guilt, any hint of something amiss. But her eyes were clear and steady. There wasn't a flicker of hesitation or awkwardness. Her voice was as sweet and tender as always. That only made me feel more confused. Could someone really cheat and still act so calm, so natural? Was she just incredibly strong? Or did she think I was a complete fool? I wanted to scream, to ask her all the burning questions that were racing through my mind, but I held it in. "You remember how much pain you went through with the last miscarriage. How can I be happy?" I said, keeping my voice under control. She pouted a little and giggled. "I know you're just worried about me. If it wasn't for that, I'd think you were having an affair and didn't want me to have the baby." My wife had always been beautiful, graceful, with a soft and delicate charm that drew people to her. We met in our freshman year of college, and by our sophomore year, she had accepted my confession of love. She was my first love, and we'd been together for 10 years. I had always believed that we would spend our lives loving each other faithfully. But now, here she was, carrying another man's child, while smiling and joking with me. Each time she acted playful, my anger grew. If only she would come clean, admit that she had cheated, and tell me she wanted a divorce, I could at least respect her honesty. After 10 years together, I wouldn't make things too difficult for her. But if she thought she could keep making a fool of me, I wasn't going to hold back anymore. I sat down next to her, trying to suppress my emotions. She immediately grabbed my hand, lacing her fingers through mine. "Don't worry, honey. This time I'll be really careful. I'll stay in bed for all 9 months if I have to. You know how much I want a baby. When we have a child who looks like both of us, my life will finally feel complete." My wife had always loved children, which was why we started trying for a baby as soon as we got married. For 10 years, I had always taken care of her, always putting her needs first. The only thing I ever did without her knowing was getting the vasectomy, thinking I was sparing her the pain of another miscarriage. And now, she was having a child with someone else, while talking to me about building a happy family. It felt like a knife was twisting deeper into my heart with every breath I took. I stared at her and asked quietly, "Kristen, are you sure you won't regret this? Is there nothing in this world you regret?" Without hesitating, she shook her head. "I have no regrets." I spoke slowly, firmly, cutting my words like I was carving them into stone. "But I don't want this baby." Her face fell, and for the first time, I saw hesitation in her eyes. Tears welled up as she clutched my hand even tighter. "Honey, I know you're doing this because you care about me, but I love you more than you think. No matter what happens, I'm going to have this baby. I won't regret it, no matter how hard it gets." It was almost touching, almost, but instead of being moved, I felt sick. Her words, her sincerity, it was revolting. I quickly pulled my hand away from hers, forcing a smile as I tucked the blanket around her. "All right, if you're sure, then I'll take care of you." 10 years of love and devotion had been shattered by her lies and betrayal. If I didn't take care of her now, I'd be betraying myself. So, I put on the happiest face I could muster and called my parents and in-laws to share the news of her pregnancy. Then I began making calls to find the best obstetrician I could. As I was making phone calls, I glanced over at the terrace and saw my wife smiling at me. Was she smiling because she thought I was an idiot? Whatever. If she's going to put on a good act, I'll do it even better. Would a simple divorce benefit only them? The higher I lift her up, the harder she'll fall later on. Later that day, after I finished my work, she asked me about my plans. I sat next to her, gently tapping her nose in a playful way. "I'm not going anywhere. From now on, I'm going to work from home as much as I can so I can stay with you more and take care of you," I said. "I just ordered your favorite gourmet meal, by the way. Since it's early in the pregnancy and you're not feeling sick yet, you should eat plenty now and stay healthy so you'll be strong for the baby." Kristen looked surprised. "That gourmet meal is super expensive and they don't even deliver," she exclaimed. I smiled. "But you love their royal course meals. I'll make sure you have whatever you want to be happy." She bit her lips slightly. "Thank you so much, honey." "You silly girl, if I'm not going to take care of you, who will? Even when the baby comes, you'll always be my number one," I said, as sweetly as I could. Kristen's eyes welled up with tears as she gazed at me. "Thank you, honey. I really mean it. It's just a meal. Why are you getting so emotional?" I wiped away her tears and laughed. Then I added, "Do you feel guilty about something? Like maybe you've done something wrong to me, and that's why you're thanking me so much?" She playfully smacked my hand. "What are you talking about? We promised we'd never betray each other, that we'd be together in the next life too. Why are you doubting me and getting upset?" I smiled coldly inside. "So you still remember that promise," I thought. But outwardly, my voice remained soft. "Honestly, even if you ended up falling for someone else, as long as you told me the truth, I would never make things hard for you. Kristen, as long as you don't lie to me, I can't accept anything." She paused for a moment, sniffled, and then rested her head on my shoulder. "How could I ever stop loving you?" she whispered. I closed my eyes and clenched my hand. That was it. I had done my part. What comes next is entirely on her. She'll have to deal with the consequences she's brought on herself. "All right, princess, stop crying. Lift your head and give me a smile," I said, trying to sound playful. She rubbed her face against my chest and then smiled through her tears. "Jace, I really love you. Thank you for everything." Though my heart had turned cold, I put on a face that looked as if I was deeply touched by her words. We kept talking, all throughout dinner and even afterward. We talked endlessly about the baby, about the future, about our youth and all our memories together. I kept her talking until she was too tired to keep her eyes open. As soon as she fell into a deep sleep, I took her phone and went to the study. I quickly opened her computer. Just as I expected, the password didn't work. Both of us had always used combinations of our birthdays and anniversaries for our phones, computers, and even social media accounts. She had always said that true love meant no secrets between us. I had kept my end of the deal, but clearly, she hadn't. I let out a cold laugh as I used my admin rights to override the password. Her social circle was small. Most days, she stayed home reading books or watching TV dramas. I had no idea who she could be cheating with, so I decided to search for clues on her computer. I wanted to find her lover as soon as possible so I could deal with them both. After combing through her browsing history, I finally found something interesting. She frequently visited a particular website and had a second account with a username made up of random letters and numbers. Was it a secondary account? I immediately pulled up that profile. The user's tagline read, "Some memories in your heart can never be erased." I felt a surge of anger. Had she been living this luxurious life with me while secretly feeling so miserable inside? I pressed on, sifting through her posts one by one. Most of them were cute videos of cats and babies, and she posted daily. I kept scrolling through these pointless clips, staying patient until I found something from 2 months ago. It was a video of 2 cats snoring while sleeping together, and the comment underneath it said, "It's not too late to be brave." It was an odd comment, out of place. I made a mental note of the username. Then, while scrolling through posts from last Lunar New Year, I came across one of her entries. It said, "I often wonder, if I had been braver back then, could I have lived with the person I love?" I was her first love, so I couldn't help but wonder, when had she started betraying me? Who was this person she secretly longed to be with? Seeing how someone had been encouraging her from the shadows made my hands tremble. When I looked at the profile picture of the person who left the comment, I realized it was a photo of a couple. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Her words from earlier in the day replayed in my mind. "I love you more than you think, Jace. I really do love you." The more I thought about it, the more nauseous and furious I became. Regrets? Fine. I'll make sure you regret this. The next morning, I brought breakfast to Kristen's bedside, carefully feeding her and helping her wash up. She hugged me, laughing. "Honey, are you really planning on taking care of me like this?" "Yesterday, I was just joking. But if this is how it's going to be, I'll gladly accept it." I smiled down at her. "Oh, by the way, I called your mom this morning to ask if she could help take care of you. But she's busy helping your sister, Grace, with her studies, so she can't come right now." Grace was Kristen's younger sister, and she was studying for the civil service exam. Hearing this, Kristen's smile faded a little. "So, my mom will come over to help take care of you. You're okay with that, right? I can't just drop everything at work. I've got a big project coming up and lots of things that need my attention." Kristen nodded slowly. "Sure. Your mom's going to have her hands full, but at least she loves grandkids, right? This time, she'll finally get her wish." I smiled at her, though inwardly I felt torn. I knew how much my parents wanted a grandchild, but I had decided against having kids for Kristen's sake. It was the right thing to do to protect her health. I had planned to shoulder all the responsibilities so neither my parents nor Kristen would feel guilty or pressured. I wanted to give her the most loving home, free from any stress or hardship. But she didn't deserve it. Before long, my mom arrived, lugging a big suitcase into the house. She took Kristen's hand and looked at her with so much affection. "Last time, you didn't tell us about the pregnancy, and it ended badly. It broke my heart to see you suffer like that. But now that we know, you can just relax. With me here, both you and the baby are going to be just fine." Kristen smiled. "Thank you, Mom. I really appreciate you going through all this trouble." "Don't be silly. This is no trouble at all. You just focus on resting and staying happy, and I'll handle the rest," my mom replied. "Oh, and don't keep your phone too close to your body. That's not good for the baby, especially since this pregnancy is so delicate. We can't afford to take any risks." "But, Mom," Kristen protested, "I'll be so bored lying in bed all day without my phone." "How could you be bored? We'll chat. Whenever you feel like talking, just tell me. And besides, you need plenty of rest. No phone for you." My mom immediately took Kristen's phone. Kristen shot me a nervous look, clearly hoping I'd intervene. I fought back a smile and said, "How will she contact the baby's father if she can't use her phone?" "Don't worry though. Mom's right, and besides, the phone screen is small. Watching your shows on it is bad for your eyes. Wouldn't it be better to stream them on the computer instead?" Kristen looked confused. "But doesn't the computer give off more radiation?" "Nope, the computer's actually safer," I reassured her, sending her a subtle signal with my eyes. "As long as Mom doesn't ban computers too, you'll be fine." My mom, trusting me as always, nodded in agreement. "You're right. Listen to your husband, Kristen." Kristen smiled and nodded, giving me a thumbs up. She had no idea that she was already caught in the trap I had set. I smiled quietly to myself, eager to finish this as soon as possible. I wanted to get revenge on both her and the man together. After having lunch with her, I hurriedly left the house, using the excuse that I had work to do at the office. While taking care of my tasks, I kept an eye on Kristen's computer at the same time. As expected, her computer soon came online because I had installed monitoring software on it. I work in network security. In just 6 years since founding my company, it had already gained a solid reputation in the industry. I have the skills to fend off various hacking attempts and solve complex security problems, so infiltrating any network is very easy for me. Because my job involves handling a lot of confidential information, I rarely talked about my work with my wife. All she knew was that I worked in the tech field. She didn't know the details. I worked my head off every day, making money to pamper her, treating her like a beautiful and precious princess. But she took that happiness for granted and didn't know how to appreciate it. I watched the screen closely as Kristen logged into her secondary account on that site. I was stunned by the flood of unread messages waiting for her. "Kristen, why did you suddenly say you want to break up? I can't live without you. I promise that I'll never interfere in your life with Jace. Please, don't say things that hurt me like that. This pregnancy is a good thing. I was so happy when I heard the news. The baby you're carrying will be the smartest and most beautiful, I'm sure of it. But are you really certain that the baby is Jace's? What if it's ours? Kristen, don't get mad. I just love you so much. Ever since I found out you're pregnant, I can't focus on anything else. I've been so worried about your health and worried that Jace won't take good care of you. You've always told me how careless and insensitive he can be. So why are you trying to break up with me now? Pregnancy will be hard on you, and you need me by your side. Even if we just talk every day, that's enough for me. I swear I won't bother you if you tell me not to. Just don't break up with me, okay? Kristen, why didn't you reply to my message last night? I was so worried. Did you sleep well? This morning, I bought those sweet rice cakes you love, and I walked around your neighborhood for a while. I almost couldn't resist coming to see you. If Jace is away on business, I just want to hold you. I'm so worried about you, Kristen. These next 10 months will be hard, and I won't be able to be with you. All I can do is wait for your reply here, in this secret space. My phone is always on, and so is my messaging app. Whenever you want to see me, just call. I love you, Kristen. I nearly threw up my breakfast. What the hell is this? This pathetic excuse for a man was sneaking around with someone else's wife, playing the part of a romantic hero in his own mind. And how dare he mention my name? Asterisk my asterisk name, so casually. The anger made my teeth grind and my bones creak with tension. I had spent so many sleepless nights worried and heartbroken. But now, with this proof in front of me, all I felt was a volcanic fury and an urge to destroy. Every time I thought of her while I was on business trips, she was hiding away with this trash in their so-called secret space. If I hadn't had the vasectomy, I wouldn't have even suspected Kristen's pregnancy. I would have had no idea she was deceiving me, playing sweet while engaging in these filthy lies. How could she betray me like this, pretending to be the perfect wife? It was disgusting. I grabbed the back of my neck, trying to calm myself down with deep breaths. Just then, I noticed Kristen's mouse cursor moving between the messages. What a pair of pitiful creatures. She had always called me Mr. Honest, saying I was a straight shooter with no room for nonsense. Well, I'll make sure both of them are sent straight to hell. My eyes burned with anger as I watched her type her reply, which only made me angrier. This baby is Jace's. I'm sure of it. Jace loves me so much. I can't divorce him. I can't hurt him like that. Steve, I think I've already betrayed him. She revised her message several times before settling on that pathetic response. I clenched my teeth, struggling to contain my rage. It was beyond absurd to see her offering $2 million of my hard-earned money to this guy without batting an eye. She couldn't hurt me by divorcing me? So, she planned to keep her affair with this loser going in secret? I rubbed my forehead, trying to push through the pain and calm myself. Steve, I thought to myself, I'll remember that name. And when I read about transferring $2 million to his account, I slammed my fist on the desk. I finally knew who he was. Last year, I bought Kristen a new building in downtown Manhattan with a stunning view of the Hudson River. It was a 2-story standalone building, brand new, with 200 pyong, about 7,000 square feet, of space. I thought it would help her move on from the pain of the miscarriages and allow her to do something she loved. Whether it was a yoga studio, a tea shop, or even one of those cat cafes she loved, I didn't care. I just wanted her to heal. At the time, I was swamped with work, barely had 24 hours in the day, so I had my assistant help her with the setup. The assistant later told me that Kristen had chosen the interior design company herself. When I asked Kristen about it, she assured me it was a company recommended by an old friend, someone trustworthy, and that their work was high quality. She said I didn't need to worry because the contract covered everything. Too busy to get involved, I left it at that. I had felt guilty for not being more hands-on, but hearing that the company came recommended by a friend gave me some peace of mind. When I reviewed the contract, the name of the company stood out, Steve Design. Naturally, I investigated the company right away. Sure enough, the owner was none other than CO Steve. It all clicked into place. The regretful message she posted during Lunar New Year was probably about him. She must have fallen in love with him while working on the interior design. That's why she had been so free with the budget. I remember her once asking me about the budget for the project, and I had laughed and told her, "There's no budget. Just do whatever you want." Nice, Kristen. You threw my trust and love away like it was nothing. But don't worry, I know exactly what to do now. I closed the laptop, my eyes bloodshot with fury. With my mother staying with us, Kristen had no chance to act on her own. I kept playing the part of the loving husband, never giving her a reason to suspect anything. And she didn't. She didn't see through it at all. Every day, I monitored the messages Kristen and Steve exchanged on their secret account. Though she told him they had to end things, they still traded sweet, affectionate messages every single day. It made me sick to my stomach. I moved swiftly and methodically, determined to end this nightmare. I enlisted 6 or 7 friends to start requesting interior consultations from Steve Design. Everything from huge mansions to luxury apartments in the city center, even a brand new shopping mall project. If the deals went through, Steve would be looking at about hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. For a small design firm like his, that was an astronomical sum. He couldn't hide his excitement and eagerly shared the good news with Kristen. "Kristen, it's all thanks to you. You brought me so much luck. I've been so busy lately that I'm losing my mind, but by the end of the year, I might be joining the ranks of the billionaires. We'll have to celebrate when that happens." Kristen replied, "Really? That's amazing, Steve. Congratulations. You're so talented, and I know your future is bright." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at that. Celebrate? Wait and see how this all ends. As I put my plan in motion, time flew by. But one day, I couldn't hold back any longer. I decided to meet Steve face-to-face with one of my friends. I needed to see what kind of man he was and why Kristen had fallen for him. The first time I saw him, I couldn't believe my eyes. He had thick eyebrows, large eyes, red lips, and perfectly white teeth. A good-looking face, I suppose. But he wore such heavy makeup that his face looked ghostly pale, like it had been dusted with flour. Before I even got close, I could smell his overpowering cologne. How bad must he stink that he has to cover it up like this? I thought to myself. The way he bowed so dramatically when he greeted people, scuttling around like a crab, was pathetic. I thought, this is who Kristen chose? She threw herself away for this? Kristen, you've truly made a fool of yourself. It's like you've become so used to gourmet food that you're now trying to taste garbage. On the way back to the office, I sat in my car with a cold, expressionless face, thinking things over. Just then, my phone rang. It was a friend calling to tell me that everything was ready. The net was about to be drawn. That evening, I returned home after 2 days without shaving or changing my shirt, looking unusually serious. I sat beside Kristen and fed her the abalone porridge I had brought, but my mind was somewhere else. Her face was covered in bits of porridge. "Honey, what's wrong? You seem worried. Is something bothering you? I quickly shook my head and forced a smile. No, it's nothing. I just haven't been sleeping well lately. I'm a little tired. Then go rest. I'll head to bed in a bit. All right, I said, nodding as I stood up. Then I hugged her again. Kristen, what if things get really hard for us in the future? Would you resent me? Kristen hesitated for a moment before asking, what's going on? Is something wrong? I forced a smile. It's nothing. I just saw something sad in the news earlier, that's all. Don't worry about it. You should rest. Honey. Before I could reply, we heard a commotion coming from downstairs. I quickly turned to Kristen and said, no matter what happens, don't move. Stay still and don't put any strain on the baby. Without waiting for her response, I hurried downstairs, leaving the door intentionally open so she could clearly hear what was going on. My mom rushed over to me, clearly distressed. Jace, what's happening? I just opened the door, and these people barged in. They're saying we owe them money? Mom, don't worry, I began. But before I could finish, a man stepped forward. Mr. Jace, long time no see. I'm usually a man of courtesy, but since you've been avoiding me, I had no choice but to come here directly. Don't you think it's time we have a little talk? I smiled politely. Mr. Coe, let's sit down and talk this through. No, I'm afraid we can't do that. I'm here for one reason only, to inform you that you've got 3 days left. You need to vacate this house in 3 days. We're taking it back. What? My mom gasped in shock. This is our house. Why would we need to leave? I quickly grabbed her hand. Mom, it's okay. I'll explain everything. Mr. Coe smirked and waved his hand dismissively. No need to rush. You've still got 3 days. Mr. Jace, discuss it with your family. I'll be back in 3 days. With that, they arrogantly walked out, and one of them deliberately knocked over a flower pot by the door. My mom stomped her feet in frustration. Jace, what on earth is going on? Be honest with me. Mom, the truth is, I started to explain, but then I heard Kristen calling from upstairs. Honey, can you come up here? I'm scared, please. I rushed back upstairs and sat down next to her, taking her hand tightly in mine. Don't worry, Kristen. It's nothing. I didn't want to burden you, but Mr. Coe came to the house. What's going on? Why are they saying we're going to lose our house? At that moment, my mom came into the room, her face full of concern. Son, if you're in trouble, we'll get through this together. Your father has stocks and mutual funds. I'll call him right now to sell them all. If it comes to it, we can even sell this house to help you out of this mess. I saw the redness in her eyes as she spoke. Mom, Kristen, I'm in serious trouble. I lowered my voice and spoke slowly. I was so confident that our new project would succeed 100% that I signed an investor risk contract. But over the past few years, the economy hasn't been as good as we'd hoped, and we didn't even come close to the returns we expected. I tried everything I could to fix it, but it wasn't enough. Now the contract is expiring, and we owe hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of billions? Hundreds of billions. My mom and Kristen both exclaimed at the same time. I nodded solemnly. Even if we sell the house, it won't cover it. Even selling the company wouldn't be enough. Even if I manage to get back on my feet someday, this debt will weigh on me for the rest of my life. Mom, I don't want you or Dad to suffer because of me, but Kristen, I'm so sorry. You're already dealing with a tough pregnancy, and now this. I've put you through so much fear and pain, and I hate that. I hate that I can't protect you. As I spoke, I took off my hat, revealing the gray hair I had intentionally dyed earlier to look more convincing. Kristen gasped and covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. My mom quickly hugged her. Don't cry, Kristen. You know how dangerous it is for your health to get too emotional right now. Don't worry. Your father and I are here. We're still young enough to help you two out. I leaned my head against the wall, hanging it in despair. Jace, stop that. Be a man. My mom suddenly barked, her voice sharp, startled. I snapped back to attention. So what if you're in debt? It's not the end of the world. I believe in my son. Whether it's hundreds of billions or even trillions, I know you can recover that money and rebuild. If we face this challenge together, we'll see better days. I felt a lump rise in my throat as I met her resolute gaze. Mom, paying off hundreds of millions of dollars isn't as easy as raising investment capital. Enough of that. If you don't give up, you can achieve anything. But I know you're worried about Kristen and your in-laws, aren't you? Kristen, wiping her tears, nodded. Tell me, Mom. My mom sighed deeply, taking Kristen's hand in hers. The law is very clear, Kristen. If you stay married, you'll be legally responsible for Jace's debts too. But your body can't handle that kind of shock and stress right now. If you two get divorced, the debt won't touch you. Kristen's eyes widened in surprise. Divorce? My mom nodded firmly. I know you two love each other. This would only be a legal divorce so that you can be free of the debt and stress. Once Jace gets through this, you can remarry. You already have a baby on the way. There's no way the family will truly be separated. You can stay here with us or go back to your parents' house. We'll take care of you. Once the baby is born, everything will be easier. You just need to focus on your health and believe that Jace will overcome this. It will take time, but if you can't wait... My mom paused, swallowing hard to hold back tears. If you find someone else during that time, I won't hold it against you. Mom, what are you saying? Kristen sobbed. I could never stop loving Jace. In the 10 years we've been together, I've loved him every single day. You're a good girl, Kristen. I believe you. So just follow my advice, okay? This is the best way for both you and the baby. And we only have 3 days left before they come for the house. Who knows what will happen after that? I know I'm being selfish, but I've waited so long for this grandchild. I don't want anything to happen to them. Let's go tomorrow morning and start the divorce process. What do you say? Kristen looked at me through tear-filled eyes, and I gave her a heavy nod before turning to lean against the wall, shaking with emotion. Let's do what Mom says. You need to stay strong. I believe in you. I shook my shoulders, covering my face with my hands, trying hard to suppress the laughter that threatened to break out. The divorce plan was going even more smoothly than I had expected. I wondered if Kristen had been so sheltered that she had lost the ability to think things through, or if she had never been someone capable of sticking through tough times. Or maybe the choice was clear for her. After all, Dr. Steve was waiting for her. In the end, Kristen agreed to the divorce far too easily. And just like that, I walked away without giving her a penny, while she, thinking she was making a grand sacrifice, happily signed the divorce papers. Pretending to be concerned, I told her, Kristen, take care of yourself and stay healthy for the baby. I won't be able to contact you for a while, maybe even a year. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Jace. Stay strong. The baby and I will be waiting for you. All right, let's do that. I pushed Kristen's wheelchair as we headed home. My mom had left to take care of some things at the house. I'll take you to your parents' place for now. In a few days, my mom will come over and help take care of you. Kristen frowned, clearly reluctant to return to her parents' home, but eventually nodded. Okay, but make sure your mom comes soon to get me. I laughed inwardly. Wait all you want. She's never coming. The divorce had gone so smoothly thanks to my mom's brilliant performance. Not long ago, I had revealed Kristen's affair to my parents and my mom, while burning with rage inside, kept up the act perfectly by playing her part by Kristen's side. In the end, we successfully deceived Kristen and finalized the divorce. Kristen, I thought as I glanced back, struggling to suppress my laughter. You really are so emotional, so gullible, painting yourself into a corner. As I turned, I saw Steve gazing intently at Kristen, and she, looking flustered, reached out to grab my sleeve. Honey, I gently let go of her hand and looked over at Steve. The night before, after Kristen had fallen asleep, I had been pretending to work in my study while reading the desperate message she had sent Steve. Steve, my husband is in serious financial trouble. He lost hundreds of billions in a bad investment, and even if we sell the house and all our assets, we won't be able to pay off the debt. My mother-in-law suggested a fake divorce to protect me. What do you think? Of course, you should get divorced, Steve replied immediately. I've told you before, you can't trust Jace. He's too ambitious, but lacks the skill to back it up. He got drunk on a little success and made reckless decisions. Joint marital debt isn't a joke, Kristen. You need to divorce him as soon as possible. Asterisk. Asterisk. But they've treated me so well. It feels heartless to do this. Asterisk. Asterisk. Kristen, do you really think they're doing this for you? It's because of the baby. They're just using your kindness against you. Asterisk. Steve urged her. Asterisk. All right, Steve. I'll go ahead with the divorce tomorrow. We'll figure out the rest afterward. Asterisk. Asterisk. Good. Do it quickly. If they change their minds and try to hold on to you, things will get more complicated. Don't worry, I've already received some donations, and more money will come in soon. I'll take even better care of you. You'll fall in love with me even more in the end. Asterisk. Asterisk. Thank you, Steve. I don't know what I'd do without you. You've always been there to listen to me. Asterisk. Asterisk. My love. I'll always protect and take care of you. Sleep well. Asterisk. Asterisk. Good night, Steve. I love you. Asterisk. I almost burst out laughing while reading their messages. One was a dim-witted fool, only capable of drawing a few blueprints, and the other was a naive woman who had no understanding of how the world works. It was hard to keep myself from laughing as I wished them an eternity of happiness together in my head. As I watched Steve's proud expression, I smiled and greeted him. He smugly straightened his jacket and nodded in acknowledgement. What a coincidence running into you here. I held back my laughter and said, I'm about to take Kristen home. Would you mind giving her a ride if you're headed the same way? I've got some urgent calls coming in. Kristen stepped closer and said, Honey, if you're busy, you should go. Mr. CO is a designer I know well. He helped with the apartment renovation before. He can take me home. All right, I'll leave her in your hands then, I said, handing Kristen over to Steve. As I walked away, I glanced back and called out to her, Don't ever contact me again. She nodded quickly. Don't worry, I won't. I got into my car, barely holding back my laughter. I had to pinch myself to keep from bursting out laughing, and right then, my phone rang. It was one of my friends. Jace, are you done? When do you want to pull the net tight? I rubbed my stiff jaw, still chuckling, as I watched Steve's car drive away. Let's finish this by the end of the week. Got it? I've been waiting for your word. We'll make sure to break this guy in half. Within a few days, Steve's design company went bankrupt. The friends I had called on were veterans of countless business battles. Going up against someone as clueless as Steve was like a cat playing with a mouse for them. Big corporate heads offered him lucrative interior design contracts and paid him small advance deposits. Then they invited him out for drinks, feeding his ego and filling his head with grand delusions of future success. Steve, drunk on the compliments from these so-called business elites, started purchasing high-end materials in bulk without collecting full payment in advance. All the materials he ordered were luxury goods, costing him a fortune. When a few of the business leaders backed out of their contracts without paying penalties, Steve found himself unable to cover the cost of the materials. Initially, I wondered how someone so foolish could have ever run a company. One of my friends dug into his past and discovered that Steve had started his business using money from a wealthy older woman. She had funded him, but shortly after, she died of cancer, leaving Steve with her money and no oversight. Since then, he had been running his company with his hollow head, luring in other wealthy women. And Kristen had fallen into his trap, just like the others. The irony was almost poetic. Now I knew I was going to leave this pair of idiots together forever. It was the perfect ending, a tragic, ironic conclusion. Not long after, Kristen called me, sobbing into the phone. Honey, where are you? Yeah, what's up? Honey, the baby's gone. Steve didn't take care of things properly. What? What are you talking about? Kristen's voice wavered as she spoke in broken sentences. He hasn't been around. He's not answering his phone. I see. Kristen, stop acting. I know everything about you and Steve. That baby was his. Don't come crying to me. We're divorced, remember? Or did you forget? There was a long pause on the other end, followed by Kristen's anguished sobs. Jace, you tricked me on purpose. I couldn't help but laugh. You're just figuring that out now? A little late, don't you think? So all that debt was fake? You set this up just to punish me, didn't you? How could you do this, Jace? We've been together for 10 years, and you tricked me like this. You have no idea, but I had to have my uterus removed. I'll never be able to have children again. My voice turned cold. And what am I supposed to do about that? Kristen, still sobbing, continued. Steve, he killed the baby. When his business started to fail, he hit me. He blamed me for bringing him bad luck. Jace, we were married. You should help me get revenge. I couldn't hold back my laughter any longer. Weren't you two so deeply in love? Sorry, but I'm just a straightforward guy. I don't have time for your little love drama. Jace. Kristen's sobs grew weaker, and just as I was about to hang up, she spoke again. Honey, I was wrong. Back then, you were always so caught up in work, and I felt so lonely. It only happened once with Steve. That day, we were talking about the apartment design, and we had too much to drink. It wasn't what I wanted. He forced me. After that, I tried to avoid him. The baby is really yours. Please forgive me. I've only ever loved you. I laughed coldly and replied, Kristen, I even got a vasectomy for you. Did you know that? Her sobbing suddenly stopped. I couldn't help but laugh again. Did you forget that I'm a computer expert? There are no secrets on your computer. If you have any shame left, don't ever contact me again. Just before I hung up, I heard her wretched sobbing on the other end. She was crying over the consequences she brought on herself. I blocked her number, thinking whatever happens to her now, it's no longer my concern. As soon as I ended the call, my mom burst into the room with her usual energy. Hey, come here and take a look at the neighbor's niece. Don't you think she's lovely? Here we go again. Ever since I split up with Kristen, my mom had been trying to introduce me to new women almost every day, but I wasn't in the mood for any of it. Mom, please stop. I'm not interested right now. Maybe I'll think about it in a few years, at least after I've fully recovered from my vasectomy. I looked out the window, standing beside her. Just give me some time. I'll make sure to give you plenty of grandkids all at once. She turned and lightly tapped my arm. You know I'm not trying to pressure you. I just worry you might still be stuck in the past. I know it's hard to move on from 10 years of memories, but starting fresh is the best way to heal. I put my arm around her shoulders, and we stood in silence for a while. Then, out of nowhere, I said, Mom, how about I invest in a movie? If you starred in it, I'm sure you'd win Best Actress. She stared at me for a moment, then pinched my arm and laughed. We laughed together, and as I looked outside, I saw the clear autumn sky stretching out before us. The world felt peaceful and beautiful. If you live with integrity and hold your head high, there are still plenty of good days ahead. Asterisk, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.